Throughout history, several presidents have faced different assassination attempts, proof of the dangers and risks that come with the office. From Andrew Jackson, who survived 2 misfired pistols in 1835, to George H.W. Bush, who escaped a bomb plot in Kuwait in 1993 and even dodged a live grenade in Georgia in 2005, these US past presidents have had their fair share of danger, surviving attempts on their lives. So, to students of American political history, given the political climate, it wasn't so much of a surprise when former US President Donald Trump was shot at during a political rally. Instead, what turned out to be a surprise was the identity of the person behind the shooting. The suspect was 20-year-old Thomas Matthew Crooks, who only a few weeks before the incident had just graduated from the Community College of Allegheny County and had been accepted into Robert Morris University. Thomas, whose parents were professional counselors, was the most unlikely of suspects, having shown no signs of a tendency to violence and had no criminal record. Yet, he was the one who planned the attack and shot at the presidential candidate. Meanwhile, after the shooting, rumors of a state-sponsored cover-up are beginning to gain ground as it appears like something fishy is going on. This is the twisted case of Thomas Matthew Crooks. Thomas Matthew Crooks was born on the 20th of September 2003 in Bethel Park, Pennsylvania, to parents who were calm-headed and saw family as a top priority. Although much information about Thomas's family has been kept out of public reach, it is said that Thomas has a big sister, Katie. Thomas also grew up in Bethel Park. He spent all his life in that neighborhood. His parents didn't have much as they were a middle-class or upper-middle-class family. His mother and father worked as licensed professional counselors, so it was only normal that they knew how best to manage their family, or so they thought. Thomas grew up to be both brainy and very quiet. He was one of those kids who would prefer you eat their lunch just to avoid a conversation with you. He was calm, peaceful, and collected, but he had his grades up. He attended Bethel Park High School, where he excelled in academics above every other school activity. However, when he was still a junior in high school, he joined the National Technical Honor Society. Thomas also enjoyed playing chess and video games, and was also learning computer programming. He took so much interest in computer programming that he attended a computer technology program at the Steele Center for Career and Technical Education. He did well and decided to try out for his school's rifle team. Although he failed the tryouts, Thomas proved that he could be anything he wanted to be. The ugly part is that Thomas wasn't only quiet and brainy, but he was also bullied. Thomas was bullied for various reasons, ranging from his quiet demeanor and body odor to wearing camouflage hunting outfits and also surgical masks to school. Everyone believed he was weird, and the bullying affected Thomas mentally. Mysteriously, when his past classmates opened up about Thomas's experiences with bullying, the school district denied any records of disciplinary incidents, including bullying and threats, saying it did not contain any information that Crooks was a victim of anything of such. The school district concluded, in their words, that Thomas was known as a quiet, bright young man who generally got along with his teachers and classmates. Irrespective of what might or might not have gone wrong in school with Thomas, in 2022, Thomas Crooks graduated with high honors and even won a $500 STAR Award from the National Math and Science Initiative. There was no single doubt that Thomas was set for greatness. Thomas continued and went on to earn an associate degree in engineering science from the Community College of Allegheny County. His graduation wasn't just a big deal to Thomas, but to his entire family. It was a big achievement as that day was filled with smiles and the feeling of fulfillment. Unknown to anyone that in the next few months, both the lives of Thomas and his family were going to change entirely, and sadly, not in a good way. After he graduated from the Community College of Allegheny County, Thomas was employed as a dietary aide in a local nursing home. It would later be known that before his employment, a background check was run on him, after which a series of tests were given. He, however, passed those tests, and even when he resumed duties, he carried them out without complaint. While Thomas worked at the local nursing home, letters came in that Thomas Matthew Crooks had been accepted into 2 prominent universities. Turns out Thomas wasn't done yet. He got accepted into the University of Pittsburgh and also Robert Morris University. This was another milestone for the Crooks. Thomas once again proved how brilliant he was. He, however, chose to attend Robert Morris University. From a distance, Thomas was living an almost complete and well-tracked life. Aside from the fact that he was brilliant, he had no criminal record. He felt fine and had no record of mental health problems also. He was accepted into the university and he had a great life. What could possibly go wrong, right? The answer would have been nothing, but unfortunately, Thomas had a plan to carry out on the 13th of July. A plan that would come as a shock to his parents and everyone who knew him and would cut his life short. It was July 13th, 2024, and former U.S. President Donald Trump and the Republican Party nominee for the 2024 presidential election was at Butler County, Pennsylvania for a presidential rally. While Donald Trump was busy delivering his manifesto to the energetic crowd in attendance, Thomas Crook was watching from a nearby rooftop that was being used by police as a staging area. He was thinking and strategizing on how to carry out his plan perfectly. He wanted the former president dead, and he was ready to make sure it happened. When he felt like the time was right, Thomas used an AR-15 style rifle and repeatedly shot at the former president while he was giving his speech.
What happened?
Fortunately, the bullet narrowly missed the president, only bruising his ears before Special Forces agents selflessly formed a shield of protection for the former president. Unfortunately, as Thomas kept shooting, his bullet shot 3 adult male audience members.
You know, that's a little bit... He's going down!
One of them, 50-year-old Corey Comparator, was killed while 2 men were left critically injured. In what felt like seconds, a member of the Secret Service counter-sniper team gunned down Thomas, who died instantly at the spot. Former President Donald Trump was immediately rushed to safety, but not before he made the heroic pose that was captured in a photograph that instantly went viral. Following the death of Thomas, a whole lot of information came to light, leaving everyone who knew the young man both confused and in shock. Bomb-making materials alongside Thomas's phone were found close to his body and also inside his vehicle, which was parked a little distance away from the building. Some of the bomb-making materials were also found in Thomas's home in Bethel Park, Pennsylvania, which is about 70 kilometers, that is 43 miles from the site of the attempted assassination. At the time he was shot, he had a remote detonator. What is even more crazy about everything is the fact that text messages from a police sniper indicated that the police were aware of Thomas already, 90 minutes before the shooting. It's still unclear why he wasn't approached or dismissed before the tragic event happened. Investigations commenced immediately, and upon searching Thomas's phones, a lot of discoveries were made. Prior to the shooting, it turned out that Thomas Crook searched for images and public appearances of former U.S. President Donald Trump, President Joe Biden, Attorney General Merrick Garland, FBI Director Christopher A. Wray, and Catherine, Princess of Wales, as well as information regarding the Democratic National Convention. He also searched the internet for information on major depressive disorder and the Oxford High School shooting. Authorities also found an arrest photograph of Oxford shooter Ethan Crumbley on his phone. On July 6th, Thomas registered for the upcoming rally, and on that same day, he Googled how far was Oswald from Kennedy, about former President John F. Kennedy and the gunman who assassinated him. Thomas Crooks also made searches for power plants in the attempted assassination of Slovakian Prime Minister Robert Fico. He used several aliases and encrypted communication accounts to buy firearm supplies and bomb-making material for carrying out his plans. It had to go well. On July 12, 2024, Thomas Crooks started his plan. He went to the local shooting range where he was a member just to practice firing. He then purchased over 50 rounds of ammunition and a ladder he intended to use to end the life of the former president. At this time, Thomas was still an employee at the local nursing home, so he had to look for a way to relieve himself off duty on the day of the rally in order for him to carry out his plans. He successfully requested the day off from work because he had something to do, promising his coworkers he would return the next day. Only he didn't, because he was dead. It was later learned that hours before the shooting, Thomas's parents called the police to report him as missing, and they also expressed concern about his well-being. During investigations, it was discovered that the AR-15 style rifle that Thomas used in shooting at the president was a gift from his father. Thomas's dad had bought the rifle legally in 2013, and then, when he felt his son was mature enough, he legally transferred it to Thomas in 2023. This wasn't unusual because Thomas was legally trained on how to use guns. He even had a registered membership in a shooting range where he had been very active. Officials briefed on the shooting were told he had visited the site of the attack, the Butler County Fairgrounds, at least once in the days before the assassination attempt. But why did Thomas want the former president dead so badly? Was Thomas carrying out this action alone? These questions puzzled investigators and the public. Thomas was just 20 years old, and he had a promising future, so what could have gone wrong? It was first debated that Thomas's actions were politically personified, and he had some objectives about politics and how the politicians ruled over the citizens, but after looking into Thomas's records, that thought changed. Turns out that on January 20th, 2021, at the age of 17, Thomas Crook donated $15 to the Progressive Turnout Project, a liberal voter turnout group through the Democratic Party donation platform. His donation was made the same day that President Biden was sworn into office. According to the Progressive Turnout Project, he made the donation in response to an email about turning into the inauguration, but then he unsubscribed from the group's mailing list in 2022. Thomas Crook had also been registered to vote since September 2021 when he turned 18. He registered as a Republican and voted only once in the 2022 midterm elections. Because of these records, the claim that Thomas's actions were politically motivated didn't make too much sense. So detectives turned to the next reason why Thomas could have made such a terrible move. It was rumored that a possible reason was that Thomas's father could be behind it, and that he could be the one not happy with the way politics was going and felt like he needed to put a stop to it, but convincing and giving his child a rifle, that seemed like a bit of a stretch. But then Thomas's phone search into a recent high-profile shooting brought landmark convictions against both of his parents for ignoring warning signs about their son. Thomas Crook's smartphone search focused on Michigan high school shooter Ethan Crumbley and the effect it had on her parents. Ethan Crumbley's parents, James and Jennifer Crumbley, were each sentenced to 10 to 15 years in prison earlier this year after juries in Michigan found them guilty of involuntary manslaughter. The rare case was considered historic, since the parents were held responsible for the crimes of their child, who killed 4 students and injured 7 other people in the Oxford High School shooting on November 30th, 2021. That detail that he may have been considering the impact of such an act on his parents provided a little insight into Thomas's frame of mind in the time leading up to his decision to open fire on former President Donald Trump. It also raised questions about whether his parents could face any legal consequences, since prosecutors are increasingly using novel legal theories to hold gun owners responsible for their children's actions. But investigators said that there is still too little known about what Thomas's parents knew and did in the days and hours leading up to the shooting, so it's difficult to make an assessment about potential legal fallout. According to the executive director of the Duke Center for Firearms Law, Andrew Willinger, the facts would need to approach or exceed the egregious level of the Crumbley case. Multiple serious warning signs over a longer period, improper storage, close involvement with the shooter's use of guns, etc. However, if after carefully checking and investigating every action Thomas's parents took concerning, it turns out that they were a little less concerned or didn't do anything about it then, Thomas Crooks might end up getting his parents in great trouble. A similar case happened last year in November when the father of a 19-year-old accused of killing 7 people at a 4th of July parade in Highland Park, Illinois, pleaded guilty to 7 misdemeanor counts of reckless conduct. Prosecutors alleged that the man should have known his son was a danger to the public when he signed his application for a firearm ownership identification card. For now, nobody knows the fate of Thomas's parents, and in some way, because of the mental challenges Thomas is speculated to have had, his parents might just end up paying the price. In April, he searched websites for information on major depressive disorder and depressive crisis treatment. People argue that parents with skills in providing solutions to mental issues should have known when their child started having a mental crack. They also argue that depression is not something anyone can hide, so they must have overlooked and paid less attention to their son. However, according to both Willinger and Garber, based on what is known now, it is unlikely that Thomas's parents will be held criminally liable for their son's actions because Pennsylvania does not have a safe storage law, a requirement that generally applies to gun owners, mandating them to secure firearms in homes with minors, and also because Thomas was over the age of 18. Gaber said, ultimately, it will be up to the district attorney to determine if there is anything to charge. Meanwhile, the case took a totally different turn when the body of 20-year-old Thomas Matthew Crook became inaccessible even to investigators. When Clay Higgins tried to inspect the body of Thomas Crook, it was said to be gone. This news changed a lot of things and raised even more questions. Clay Higgins, a Louisiana Republican who was on the House task force investigating the shooting, detailed some of his findings after a 3-day trip to Butler earlier in August. In the report, Higgins wrote that he had attempted to examine Crook's body, but was unable to do so. He alleged that the FBI was obstructing further investigative efforts. In his words, he said, "My effort to examine Crook's body on Monday, August 5th, caused quite a stir and revealed a disturbing fact. The FBI released the body for cremation 10 days after July 13th. He continued by saying on July 23rd, Thomas's body was gone. Nobody knew this until Monday, August 5th, including the county coroner, law enforcement, sheriff, etc. Higgins said the Butler County coroner technically had legal authority over the body, but I spoke with the coroner, and he would have never released Crook's body to the family for cremation or burial without specific permission from the FBI. He also wrote that similar to releasing the crime scene and scrubbing crime scene biological evidence, this action by the FBI can only be described by any reasonable man as an obstruction to any following investigative effort. Higgins' report also noted that both the coroner's report and the autopsy report were late. The problem with me not being able to examine the actual body is that I won't know 100% if the coroner's report and the autopsy report are accurate. We will never know. Yes, we'll get the reports and pictures, etc., but I will not ever be able to say with certainty that those reports and pictures are accurate according to my examination of the body," said Higgins. Higgins submitted his report to Representative Mike Kelly, the chairman of the task force. It details some of the congressman's findings so far, but is not exhaustive nor final. As I have said, every question will be answered, every theory explored, and every doubt erased. The American people deserve the full truth on the attempted assassination of President Trump. Our investigative efforts are moving forward in good faith. The release of my preliminary investigative report is reflective of my desire to deliver transparency and reassurance to the American people, Clay Higgins concluded. This hasn't just distracted everyone from the main incident, it has brought up a space for political questioning. Why does it seem as though the FBI is trying to hide something? The cremation of Thomas's body was done so quickly, and that affects everything, from the investigation results to the public view of the case. Aside from that, police and agencies investigating have been unable to identify a motive so far. The FBI mentioned that Thomas Crook's family is also helping out by cooperating with investigators to find better and more satisfactory answers. FBI Director Christopher Wray told U.S. lawmakers that more than 200 interviews have so far been conducted and 14,000 images reviewed. Police also revealed that they believe Thomas acted alone, but then they are continuing to investigate whether he was accompanied to the rally. Many people have come up to mention a thing or two about Thomas, from his classmates to restaurant owners. Some young locals who went to school with him described him as a loner, who was frequently bullied and sometimes wore hunting outfits to school, while another former classmate of his, Summer Barkley, cast him differently, telling the BBC that he was always getting good grades on tests and was very passionate about history. She described him as well-liked by his teachers. Others simply remembered him as quiet, while some claimed he was intelligent but a little weird. Staff at Angelo's Pizza, a restaurant in Bethel Park, told the BBC they were familiar with Thomas Crooks. The restaurant's owner, Sarah Petco, said that staff members, some of whom were his classmates, thought he was a loner, but that they were having trouble understanding how an otherwise quiet man turned to violence. Jameson Myers, who graduated alongside Thomas Crooks in 2022, remembered him as seemingly a normal boy, who was not particularly popular but never got picked on. He said Thomas was a nice kid who never talked poorly of anyone, and nobody could have ever thought of him capable of anything close to what he did. Max Smith, who took an American history course with Thomas, told the Philadelphia Inquirer that his former classmate definitely was conservative. Mr. Smith recalled a mock debate in which they both took part, saying the majority of the class were on the liberal side, but Tom, no matter what, always stood his ground on the conservative side. Thomas Matthew Crook was no doubt a smart young man. He had his struggles, but the future was bright. But because of a decision he took that no one fully understands, his dreams, hopes, and life have been cut short. Whether or not the truth will come to light given how fishy the FBI is acting, One can only hope that investigators get to the bottom of it. As we leave you, we want you to understand how important it is to protect our minds. After all, it's the thoughts that birth actions. This case also speaks on the importance of keeping an eye on our loved ones and also the need to fight depression. The good news is that former President Donald Trump is still alive, but 2 people lost their lives and 2 critically injured. That alone makes it very sad. It could have been avoided, or couldn't it? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section. Also, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Then we will see you in our next video with quality information. Bye.